And now
Thanks, yeah.
we welcome Ms. Gauri Chaudhary. The next speaker for today, Gauri ma'am has been on our webinars a lot, and she has recently done a lot on brand building through AI also. So looking forward to some points on that also, Gauri ma'am. Just let me take some time to introduce. She is the founder of Brand Innerworld, and it is a pharma and healthcare brand strategist. She is the author of The Perfect Pill. Her remarkable journey in the healthcare industry spans over 27 years. Earlier, she led the healthcare business of FCB Ulka Advertising, managing campaigns for top pharma and healthcare companies. She also served as the head of India operations for the global team of Draft FCB Ulka Healthcare in New York, USA. Welcome, ma'am. And we are running a bit short on time. Sorry for that, but we are open to hearing on what you have to say on brand building in the CNS division also.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Swati, for the kind introduction. And I was also listening to Mr. Vasan, a fantastic journey of Augmentin. And thank you, Vivek, sir, for giving this opportunity to everyone to discuss this very important issue of how do we keep brands top of mind. So thank you so much. And I'm really sorry. I was like kind of, because it's getting late in Japan and, it's like, it's a little later here. So I'm coming in, but honestly speaking, wonderful discussion so far. So basically, when I don't have a presentation, I do have a few slides, but whenever I met with my consumer friends, consumer industry friends, and they would keep talking about their brands, be it Coke, Pepsi, everybody knows how these brands dominate minds and how these brands actually fight competition. They stay relevant years together, or rather decades together. And very rarely we discuss about how pharma brands have done that job in their own little silent way, because we are not a very extrovert industry, but not many know that there are so many wonderful brands which have not only done service to customers, and because of that they have stayed top of mind, not for years, not for 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, but decades together. And I'm extremely fortunate because I was working with pharma companies as brand manager. I started my career moving on to advertising, where you get to get exposed to many brands at the same time because you're handling multiple accounts. I looked at some international brands because, again, the New York office used to handle global accounts. And then later, as a consultant and a coach, I got exposed to so many brands. And I would say all of those brands were wonderful. They all are iconic brand and top of mind brands. In fact, Augmentin was one of the brands which we handled through FCB Ulka, and we were associated for multiple campaigns that time. And these are the brands which stand taller. By no stretch of imagination, I can say that I did any great work towards it, or I contributed in a manner. No, these brands were built by stalwarts in this industry, and not one person, multiple people together. And I got exposed with Eptoin was the first brand which I handled as a brand manager. So Eptoin, Prothidine, Digene. Later on, I moved to Cremafin from advertising side, took Digene from RX to OTC. You name the brand, and they are the brands which actually teach you so much. So instead of saying I built a brand or anyone built the brand, I think these brands built marketers. They built people like us. So I have 5 stories to tell. Those are stories which I think shaped my journey. They are very close to my heart, those 5 instances, and I'll share them with you. I have a small deck which probably can. So basically, Eptoin was the brand, and some time back, so this was the first brand that I handled. I was working with Knoll. So Boots Boots healthcare business, or the prescription business, was taken over by Knoll, and I was the brand manager at that time. It's a brand of Phenytoin. And when Vivek sir called me saying that they did at Pharma State Academy, they did a fantastic research just to understand which brands are at the top of mind. And they found out Eptoin was part of it. Now, just for the understanding, Eptoin is a brand of phenytoin. This is used for epilepsy, and this brand was discovered in 1908. It got commercialized in 1938, and since that time, this brand is available under the brand name Eptoin. So initially in 95, when I joined the company and I was given this task of handling Eptoin, I was a little disappointed. I thought, oh, I'm given the old brand. This brand probably is not, that new innovative kind. And I felt, so what? It is market leader. It was market leader that time. So what? It's a market leader. It's still an old brand. With these thoughts in my mind, actually, I was asked to go to on field work. So my first week was where I had to go to the field work, and I was sent to Vizag. Now, all of you may know that Vizag is known as the city of destiny. Tell you honestly, actually, this particular city actually carved destiny for me. When I went there, there was a medical representative who came to receive me at the airport, and he was 50-year-old person. BSc in physics was his educational background, and a very humble, nice, respectable person. He comes at the airport, and when we sat in the cab taxi, and he said, "Can we just go and have coffee somewhere? Tomorrow morning we can start our field work." It was a little late in the night when I had reached there. So at the coffee, Mr. Venkat told me, he asked me, he said, "What's your age?" And I said, I was 24, 25 that time. I said, "Okay, I'm 24, 25." He said, "Have you done your MBA?" I said, "Yes, I've done my pharmacy, my MBA, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Hold on. The brand that you're going to handle is much, much older than you. Please handle it carefully." That was his line, and it got me thinking. Next day, it was my first week in the company. Next day, we went to a doctor, and after detailing the Eptoin, Prothidine, or other brands, he just asked doctor to tell me about epilepsy. And he said, "Doctor, what goes in your mind when you treat a patient of epilepsy?" And that time, when doctors were talking about the entire issue of epilepsy, they were so closely talking about the pains of parents, the pains of children, and the kind of things patients go through, and they were also talking about various brands, including Eptoin. But that gave me an insight, and I realized why my company so wisely sent me in the first week to go and meet customers. From there, the first time after listening to this, I realized that brands are bigger than brand managers and marketers, because marketers come and go, but but the brands stay not for years, but for decades. And one must understand that brands belong to customers first. We often feel that we have the brand belong to company, brand belong to us, but no, the first right on any brand is that of customer. And so beautifully, Mr. Venkat made me witness all this and told me that you have to be careful while you are handling. Come back to Mumbai, and I realized that my table was full of lot of spirally bound books. And the minute I saw this, your reaction is that to keep it aside, make space for yourself. And at that time, I was told that I will be making a presentation. Now, this presentation was to let the group understand whether I have understood the brand that I'm going to handle. So my whole thought was, I had gone for 8 days of field work, and my whole thought was, oh, let me go and talk about the ideas I have now that I have understood from customer perspective, all that. And I went to my immediate boss and I asked him, how should I structure my presentation? How much time do I have? He said, yeah, 50% of the time, you tell us what have you understood after reading all these books and booklets, and then 50%, what are your thoughts on it? And only after that, you start regular handling or the cycle planning, what is typically mentioned as. And I was like, for a minute thinking that what do they even mean by this? 50% of the time to understand? And I started opening those spiral bound books. I realized those were earlier marketing plans, not of 1 year, but I was given almost 10 years plan. And every brand manager who had handled the brand previous to me had made some smaller notes. That time it was all in handwritten notes. What worked, what did not work, what was the campaign, what was the result of the campaign, what they did. Little notes, and all those books actually made me understand I am the medium of taking this brand from this step to the next one. It's not only your ideas. Of course, the team was extremely happy to know what are the various new thoughts on it, but new thoughts only when the old legacy is understood. And then I understood my second lesson, that soul of any brand must remain unchanged. It happens that in a frenzy of doing something interesting, lot many times marketers keep changing the look of the brand, the communication of the brand, something new each time. Well, it I'm not saying it should not be changed, but what I learned at that time, that every brand has its soul. That soul gets connected to the customer, and that has to remain intact. Now, just to give you an example, what I mean by the soul. Now, one of the things that we used to that time give as an input to doctors was one small card. The after detailing this of the story, representative would give a card to the doctor. That card would be of maybe A4 size, and the card used to have story of one person at that time who probably was suffering from epilepsy. For example, in this picture, you can see Agatha Christie, who was an epilepsy patient, Tony Greig, very well-known cricketer, who was also an epileptic patient, and Van Gogh. And we had list of such people, and we used to just put that person's picture, talk 3-4 lines about this person, and back of that card would be Eptoin brand name, what Eptoin's prescribing information, etc. was. Now, when and this card used to go consistently every cycle. So around the time I started doing it, one MR from Mumbai came to me and he said, we are a little bored of this. He's like, what is it? Look at the other companies. And that time transactional business was also happening. And MR would say that, look, people get so many, doctors get so many gifts, so much is given. And what are we doing? One visual aid, one small pen, once in a while with a brand name. And these cards, we are not doing anything else. For the moment, I did feel the pain of my representative. And when I was working in Mumbai, at Ghatkopar, I met one neurologist and I saw this card lying on his table. I asked him, why have you kept it here? And he said that, and I said, do you always keep it here? He said, no, I mean, it sometimes stays on my table. Sometimes my assistant just junks it in Raddi. But he said that this is a very important card. He said, when a mother of a child with epilepsy or any family member comes to my clinic, they are in real pain. They feel that the seizures are going to take over their lives, their future, their dreams. But these little cards help me tell them epilepsy is not a hurdle in your dreams. You can achieve your dreams despite epilepsy, because Tony Greig could do that. Agatha Christie could do that. Van Gogh could do that. And that was the value. And that time, I realized it was the little card which wasn't even costing few paise, but it was straightway connecting and was telling doctors that, look, epilepsy can be treated. And when you find a patient who is in distress, these cards can be used. Maybe you may not show the card, but okay, you have the person's name in the mind. So brands exist to soothe customers' pain points. And pain points are actually the feelings that come. Of course, there is a physical and rational aspect of it, but there are so many feelings associated with it. It so happens that when, I mean, we never tell doctor that, look, doctor, I think I'm not well. No, we say, I'm not feeling well. Doctors also don't ask, are you thinking unwell? No, they say, are you feeling unwell? So feeling is so much part of it. And when you connect with our doctors, not only with rationality, but also with the feeling, understanding the feelings, you actually create a special bond with them. And this is how we were helping doctors by this some 2 rupee or 1 rupee card, which was going one per doctor. So it wasn't a heavy transactional thing that was, even bothering us. And when this was understood, even the MRs felt good about it. Another important part was consistency. This card was consistently going for 2 to 3 years without any stop. That is the main reason of because of that, doctors could connect this message with Eptoin well enough. If it was done just one of the things, if it was not done consistently, the connection wouldn't have happened. So when doctor said that your card helps me treat the patient, but it also subconsciously helps doctor connect with Eptoin. And this is how the entire circle was built. So little things, but they really take brands in a much longer way. Luckily, we never got into any transactional business that time, and there was never ever any expensive gift going to doctors. It was only these little things which were helping. So as a brand manager or as a marketer, you may get bored of same thing, or medical representatives, they would get bored of something, but customers may not. And I'm using word may not because there is a fatigue that also happens at a customer level sometimes. But before one changes anything, it is important to check that whether customer has seen it. You may show it to doctors 10 times in a day, 365 days, but doctor sees it probably once in a month, or maybe because of the digital medium, thrice or 4 times in a month. But it's important that it builds consistency so that brands get related to the message. Going forward, I still remember the next thing that this instance happened in our life, in my life, when Eptoin was really got attacked by newer molecules. There were so many new molecules which were getting launched every year or every alternate year. And in fact, that was the time they would always be compared with Eptoin. And somewhere we were losing market share. Some of it, I wouldn't say majorly, but we were losing some market share, and it was a big concern. That was the time we actually, I remember there was a meeting and all the stalwarts from the company were there, and our whole idea was to brainstorm. And I remember my boss saying very clearly, he said that, okay, let new brands come. Let new brands have their own stories to tell. Let new brands compare themselves with Eptoin, but that doesn't make our brand any bad or any worse. The point is, Eptoin has been consistently prescribed by doctors. It has become a gold standard. Doctors have connection and comfort with it. It will happen in medical science that new formulations or new products will come. But the point is, the kind of comfort and trust Eptoin has, we should not get our focus diluted because of competition. Let's focus on our brand and let us continuously keep building it. And as I said, the building is not only rationally, but building it understanding that neurologist or psychiatrist who treats patients with epilepsy. And when families come with pain, you actually understand the feelings. And we just decided to focus on our brand. We decided never ever to even care for, of course, SWOT is an important tool you use, but getting swayed or getting our message diluted was never something that we ever did. And if I remember, throughout my career, I always believe that focus on your own brand. Competition will be there. Take notice of it, but don't dilute your focus. Just because something is newer, it need not be better. So older brands are not bad brands, and products may die, but brands don't, as long as they understand the pain point of the customers, they understand the problems of the customers. Next very important point is staying relevant. When we say that brands continue to stay here for decades, it doesn't mean that they don't change. Something little, it has to change around it. Just to, because the societies change as time goes forward, that society's needs change, their problems change, and therefore maybe your communication, the packaging, and very importantly, the services have to change. But when one takes that change, it's important that the soul of the brand has remained unchanged. I remember when Digene was getting upgraded almost every 3-4 years. We even changed some part of its packaging, but keeping the soul of it intact. So in India, people look at the pack and they identify their brand. And there's a huge placebo effect related to it. The minute you see your brand, you feel your half the pain has gone. Therefore it needed to keep the soul intact. So if you see Digene's packaging for the past 10-20 years, you'll see there has been slight change just to make it more vibrant, to make it more closer to changing societies. And that is what makes the whole difference. So staying relevant and making those minor changes, but without changing the soul of the brand. So be it a pharma brand or, I know there are a lot of students there. So be it, or young professionals out there, be it a pharma brand or you yourself as a brand, what is very important is to understand yourself, your strengths, you being what you offer. So when Eptoin, what was it offering? It was offering consistently efficacy, affordability, quality, and the connections. So understanding what you stand for, then it doesn't matter whether in the market there is newer levetiracetam or any other molecule. Doesn't really make much of a difference. Understand pain points, be it any situation, corporate situation, at home, wherever you are. What are the pain points of the people around you, and then provide solution. Don't let competition dilute the focus. There will be people, there will be brands, there will be everyone around you which may have different set of strengths, but that doesn't make you weaker in any format. So understand the strengths of yourself or your brand. Provide solutions. Any brand exists on this planet only because it has to provide solution. And if it doesn't provide solution, no one wants a brand. So provide solutions, stay in that zone. Don't waste time saying that how other molecule is not good and how other molecule is causing side effect. Doesn't matter. Or your colleague for that matter, if it's your personal brand, it doesn't matter what others do. It's always important that you provide solution and don't dilute the focus. Be consistent, stay relevant. And finally, thank you so much for listening to my stories. All these brands have built me more than I saying I have contributed any particular way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gauri ma'am. And very quickly, you have told a story which will be remembered. So congratulations on that. All the major points for Eptoin you covered, how the story when you were first introduced to a brand, and the remark that take care of the brand, it's older than you, and that is very, very important to understand. And let me just quickly take 2 questions for you asked. As brand manager, how can we ensure the use of leave behind literature more effectively and implementation of uses 100%? That means the leave behind literature, how can we ensure that it is used for the purpose that it is there?
Yeah, one has to understand if the purpose is really resolved. For example, a lot of leave behind just go there and talk only about their brand. Now, my brand is good. Every leave behind literature would have some meaning to it. But is it connecting or doing any difference in the life of a customer? For example, this particular leave behind, it was telling the story of great people who also had epilepsy. But that didn't stop them from going and achieving their dreams. Now, that's one part of it. The second thing, a lot of people ask me, do brand reminders or leave behind literatures have any meaning? They ultimately go in dustbin. My answer to them generally is, do you keep your newspaper on as a frame on the wall? No, you just very next day or maybe the same day, you put it in the dustbin. The point is, still people have advertisements put in newspapers. Why does it happen? It happens basically because any literature, anything that is left with the customer actually make your brand start talking to the customer. The way your logo is, the way your tagline is, the way you have used visuals. somebody would just look at it for 2 seconds, but the connections happen. When you look at it, there is something that brand tells you. That's why even when the newspaper is shown in Raddi, there is so much of contribution of print ad to the promo. So in absence of that, your literature which you put to the doctor actually does the same task. In 2 minutes or 2 seconds, not even minutes, in 2 seconds, it has told the story, provided you have designed it well. Besides that, of course, what else it solves as a purpose, because doctors face it as a big time. We sell them, we give medicines and say, okay, these are the medicines. But doctors don't treat only bodies, they also treat minds, and they need a lot of resource for that. What are you doing in that sense? That's important.
Thank you. And there are good questions coming up now. One very relevant would be in today's context with new NMC guidelines coming up. What is the relevance of brand building? So
I think NMC guidelines. So I think brands are fundamental to societies. They will always be there. So how did brands start? Long ago, when the word brand comes from the word brander. What does it mean? That long ago, when people used to sell cattle meat, they used to, some of the farmers cattle used to be more healthy. So they started putting some kind of brand on it. They used to burn, that's very sad, but with a rod, they used to make a dot or something on the cattle. That's how they differentiated one cattle from another. Now, if NMCs come, what is going to happen is that there will be probably all generics. Let's assume NMC comes exactly in the way that they are talking about. So what will there be? There will be Abbott's phenytoin. There will be Pfizer's phenytoin. There will be Sun Pharma's phenytoin. But when we say somebody's phenytoin, it means it is that company's brand. And instead of companies spending on individual brands, they will have to spend money on corporate brands, which I think is not a bad idea either. So brands are not going to go away. As societies move, they actually, be it education, be it clothes, be it your food, everywhere branding is fundamental. So if that is going to happen in India, if NMCs come, we will see phenytoins of this company versus that company. And how are you connecting with patients as a corporate will make the whole difference. So branding is not going anywhere. It in fact is going to consolidate probably market. I mean, if that happens, I wouldn't be the unhappy person. It would be a very nice thing to happen if it is in the benefit of companies and patients and doctors.
thank you,
NMC
Gauri.
doesn't stop.
Yes.
NMC doesn't stop communication. Okay, and we are in the business of communication. You communicate. Okay, the brand will be built. So the NMC is not a barrier for brand building.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we'll start building corporate brands, which will not be bad for societies. It will be very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Sankar sir. Thank you, Gauri ma'am. There are questions, but these are questions which I'll take up towards the end because all the speakers would be required to answer those questions, generic questions. Thank you, Gauri ma'am, for being with us today and sharing your insights here. I hope the participants gathered those insights.